trying to think what it was that I was supposed to be doing a video about, and then I got through prayer that it was about exactly what I was doing. It was about prayer. And so when I was praying, I was thanking for the ability to pray out loud as well as to pray inwardly, which I've always been used to, that, alignment time with God spiritually. And of course, we speak, we can pray, but, quite often it's even more private than that, certainly has been in the past for me. And it's the thought. The word is the word within the thought. And it certainly still worked for me, not having to kind of pray out loud in words. And it's very powerful. It always has been, and that's why, the power of our thoughts, as well as our words and actions, are so important in making sure that we're in alignment with God. But what had come to me was that when we speak our prayers out loud, it gives us a chance, because they're audible, we can hear them, and we're hearing them back to ourselves in such a clear way. So it really is very, very powerful indeed. And by thinking and speaking and hearing this audibly, we're able to gain a kind of a deep understanding. And it depends what kind of part of our journey we're on, but certainly speaking our prayers out loud can help us. I have here 2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. And so this really reminded me of how people can get caught up in their days, and this is the difference between being mindful and not being so mindful, and then ending up, it says here, in wicked ways. And now some people might not recognise that they're even doing that if they're not taking mindful time to really truly align with our Lord and our God. And so it's not in a way that's to blame, but it's more of a way to kind of be powerfully spoken so that we consider what it actually really means, and it gets our attention. And so it is important that it gets our attention, because we do need to be very mindful. If we're just going about our daily lives and we aren't into prayer, or we aren't really thinking about how to commune with God, we aren't really taking that mindful time on how to be best and for ourselves and for everybody that we're in connection with, then that's how our paths can just be led astray. And before we know it, we're in situations that just don't make sense. We don't know really how to navigate them, and then we maybe go and pray then. But it's good, obviously, to be able to do that, because as we're ascending, we're not always going to be entirely perfect. We're always perfecting, so things can happen, but it's always, it says wicked ways, and of course a lot of people don't mean to do things that are wicked. It's just because they get into a place where they're not really mindful enough, as I say. So if you're mindful, you can prevent being led into a wicked way or a wicked response, or being so snared by the devil. And the devil can catch people by the fact that they are maybe not being mindful and they're not ready. That's the unfortunate thing, and that's why it's so important that we, as we lead people who are coming from different kind of religions or backgrounds or beliefs and understandings or levels of understanding, that within the Christian community, it's really great that the Church of England and Scotland are open and accepting about different people's levels and stages. But it's also important that we don't lead other people astray, because we do have to put God first, and we do have to love our neighbour, and those two are combined. You see, we can't really love our neighbour unless we put God first. And until we're promoting God as being first, then we're kind of doing our neighbours a disservice in a way, and actually not really loving them. So if we're saying, yeah, we accept you and you can do whatever you want, that's fine. Well, of course, everybody has their own will. But we also need to kind of be kind, sensitive, and also direct our own thoughts to pray for them. And our own thoughts to pray for ourselves initially, with our own alignment with God, and then of course with them. So putting our alignment with God first, them. And being role models of that. And so being a role model of that would be being able to pray out with, as well as being able to pray within, in our hearts and our minds and our souls. But as we speak these prayers out, we also think that everything that we actually say is almost like a prayer too. So that energy is going out into the world. And so as we think about what we're saying and actually think about that in terms of, even although we don't think we're praying, to actually consider that we are in prayer and that we are in the courts of God in every moment, in our own hearts and minds and souls. So every thought, and then every word, and then every action. But as we take time to think about each of those levels of who we are and how we're being, we can be more mindful and more successful about being in alignment with God.